a vengeful entity born of the essence of a cursed elf, now twisted into a spiteful specter that laments through the night. Forever bound to its final resting place, the Banshee haunts its grounds as a cursed sentinel of its past life. The Banshee is one of, if not the most deadly creature to encounter as a low-level party. Hidden underneath a deceptively mediocre stat block, the Banshee hides a treasure trove of eerie lore that will allow you to weave together a story that your players will be talking about for the rest of their D&D careers. So today, we're going to go over the Banshee, talk about its stats, its lore, and how you can make an encounter that your players will remember forever. The Banshee is a CR4 creature, which effectively means that it is an acceptable challenge for an adventuring party of 4 4th level adventurers. It has an armor class of 12 and average HP of 58, which places it a bit under the average of other CR4 creatures. Aside from that, the Banshee stat block is pretty terrifying, to say the least. To start off, being a literal ghost has its plus sides here, because the Banshee has a massive list of immunities and resistances. Between the two of them, they take little to no damage from 10 out of the 13 total damage types in all of 5th edition. It resists 7 of those damage types, specifically being acid, fire, lightning, thunder, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-damaging attacks, and straight up is immune to 3 other types, being cold, necrotic, and poison damage. The only damage types that a Banshee actually takes full damage from are Radiant, Psychic, and Force damage, which are all incredibly rare in 5th edition on their own right, but even more so considering you'll likely encounter the Banshee at the low levels. But alongside that impressive list of resistances and immunities to damage is another list for condition immunities. The Banshee is immune to being charmed, exhausted, frightened, grappled, petrified, paralyzed, poisoned, prone, or restrained. That means that the Banshee is really only susceptible to being blinded, deafened, or stunned, which is another bummer for you as players since at level 4 there are very few options for imposing any of those conditions. But now let's talk about what the Banshee can actually do, starting off with its most deadly ability, Wail. Once per day, the Banshee can release a mournful wail, and all creatures that aren't constructs or undead within 30 feet of her must make a Constitution saving throw. If the creatures succeed, they take 3d6 damage, but if they fail, that creature drops to 0 hit points. That is an instant AoE ability, meaning that this could technically lead to a TPK within a single action. While the DC isn't too difficult, being only 13, considering that the Banshee would be facing a party that are technically lower level players, it's not unlikely that 1 or 2 of them would fail this save. Even if they do all succeed, they're all still going to take an average of 10 damage from that one ability. And if 1 or 2 players fails that save, not only is the party at half strength immediately, but the members that are still conscious are down 10 HP right off the bat. And to put that number into perspective, at level 4, a barbarian will have an average of about 30 to 40 HP. This means that if they do succeed on their saving throw, which is likely for a barbarian, they will be down about 20 to 25% of their total HP in a single action. Can you imagine how bad this ability would be for a wizard? A wizard would have somewhere around an average of 20 hit points at this level, meaning that if they succeeded on the save, which is unlikely in its own right, they would be down to 50% of their total health pool in one ability. This is so incredibly dangerous, and it really is the main reason the Banshee is so deadly. But it also has other features which at face value might not seem all that bad, but when you put it together, you can start to see why the Banshee goes from being deadly to the most deadly CR4 creature. Mainly, we have the Horrifying Visage. This is a fear that forces all enemies in a 60-foot radius to succeed on a wisdom saving throw or become frightened. Since it uses wisdom saving throws, this ability absolutely obliterates martial classes since so few of them actually care about wisdom. The very same martial classes that you're hoping are still up after the Wail ability. Now at this point, you might be asking yourself, what's the big deal? Since the Banshee has less than 60 hit points, it's not like it's going to live long enough to do all these terribly dangerous things, right? Well, the thing is about the Banshee is it's not ever going to get caught off guard by an overly curious adventuring party because of one little passive ability that they have called Detect Life. This allows the Banshee to detect all creatures within a 5-mile radius that isn't an undead or a construct. With 5 miles worth of travel time to prepare her lair, set traps, prepare minions, and more, the Banshee will always be prepared for any unwelcome guests, and likely will have a very powerful surprise round in combat with their incorporeal movement and preparations. And once combat starts, the Banshee still has a couple of aces up her incorporeal sleeve with a fly speed of 40 feet and the ability to move through creatures and walls. With that being said, the Banshee should never be caught in melee with the party, but even if somehow they do, they have that massive list of resistances and immunities that will buy them some time to reposition and reevaluate their position in the combat. The only true weakness of a Banshee is that her only technical damage ability is Corrupting Touch, which deals 3d6 plus 2 damage on a hit. And even if that's pretty decent, it's a melee spell attack, which means that it has to get up close and personal with the enemies in order to deal damage, which is less than ideal. In my opinion, this is absolutely at odds with what the Banshee wants to do. And apparently, I'm not the only one, because Wizards of the Coast actually changed this ability in the Icewind Dale module from a melee spell attack to a ranged attack. And that's currently where the Banshee stands, but that one little change makes the encounter so much more interesting and dangerous. Being able to just fly up in the air out of your player's range while frightening them and raining spectral bolts of necrotic energy makes it so the players will be hard-pressed to dispatch her before she TPKs them or escapes. But if you wanted to add a little bit more to the Banshee to, boost her up to a boss level, you could consider giving her basic spellcasting abilities. Even allowing her to cast cantrips or first level spells takes the Banshee from a dangerous encounter to a real struggle for survival. Imagine if the Banshee knocks out the ranger with her Wail, fears the fighter, and then floats up 40 feet in the air and starts raining down eldritch blasts upon the rest of your party. There's so many ways you can elevate the Banshee, but even the stat block as it is default is an amazing creature. But now that we know what the Banshee is capable of, let's talk about the possible story implications of the Banshee and its lore. Banshees are a lingering remnant of a beautiful female elf that squandered their gift on corrupting and controlling others. These elven spirits were beset by the Banshee's curse, forever tethered to the place of their demise and condemned to relive every moment of their lives with perfect recall. Their story is a tragic tapestry woven with the threads of their own misdeeds, all while refusing to accept the part they played in their own demise. As the curse progresses, it strips afflicted elves of their joy, and their bodies and minds slowly decay until their ghastly transformation is eventually completed. Once fully transformed, Banshees maintain a small fragment of the person that once was, which creates this kind of paradoxical relationship with beauty. Banshees covet things like fine jewelry, paintings, or anything pretty or valuable, although they recoil from anything with a reflective surface such as a mirror because they don't want to accept the horror of their own existence. In the dark corners of the Banshee's tail, the beauty that once defined them becomes a haunting reminder of the curse that now binds them to their eternal damnation. This history opens up the Banshee for some amazing plot points, allowing the DM some incredible freedom when creating this encounter. You could very easily take this story and make it a heavy plot point in a larger campaign in which the Banshee is a perfect or difficult boss encounter for the earlier levels of play. Perhaps the Banshee was just a vain princess of a kingdom long lost. Or maybe they're an individual that was corrupted by otherworldly influences, which ultimately caused the curse of the Banshee to take hold. That Banshee might now haunt a castle ruin where it used to live, and it's been overrun with undead or malevolent spirits, and the party has been tasked with dealing with it. Throughout those ruins, the party might find evidence of influence of something far more sinister, akin to that of maybe a demon lord. The players can either dispatch the Banshee and be done with it, or pity the Banshee and find a cure for the curse. And maybe if the players cure the Banshee's curse, then that spirit gives them information on what initially corrupted them in the first place, allowing you to tie this in to a larger story arc. There are so many ways you could take this, and in writing the script, I now have a really fun idea for another campaign that I will likely never get the chance to run, but hey, if you want to take it for your campaign, go ahead. Just make sure to leave a comment below and let me know what you thought about the video, and we'll call it even. But anyways, that is the Banshee. If you want to see more cool monsters in D&D 5th edition, you can check out the playlist in one of these corners or the description, and make sure to subscribe. But as always, thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you on Friday.